All right, Mr. Curry, thank you for coming in today. We're going to do a couple of things this morning. We're going to talk about your data, specifically successes that you've had. We're also going to talk about feedback from classroom visits this week, okay? Is that okay with you?
Great.
All right, thank you for coming in.
Yeah.
All right, first thing, one thing I noticed in looking at your data, you've had some success, and that's what we're going to discuss. We're going to highlight specifically standard RIKID2.
Okay.
We're going to compare CFA 1 versus CFA 2 with this particular standard.
Okay.
Before we get into the actual numbers, can you tell me what that standard is calling students to be able to know and to do?
Yes. Students need to be able to know the theme or central idea of a text, be able to analyze it, and be able to see how it emerges and is shaped throughout the text.
Okay. How will a student be able to show mastery of that to you?
In most cases, we use quick writes.
Okay.
Students are able to write down what the theme is. I'll read that, or the central idea, whichever one we're talking about at the time.
Okay.
They're able to show it by writing about it or speaking about it.
Okay, well, great. So when we think about the numbers on how well students perform from CFA 1 to CFA 2, in CFA 1, your students 51% scored below, compared to CFA 2, where only 30% scored below, which is great improvement. In CFA 1, you had 33% of your students were approaching. In CFA 2, 46% of your students were approaching. And in CFA 1, you had 15.5% of students were on track of mastery. In CFA 2, you had 23.8% of students were on track of mastery. Can you talk to me about what did you do to reteach this particular standard, or what did you do to adjust adjust your teaching with students to gain this improvement?
Yes. During CFA 1, we covered the Odyssey, which was a text about Odysseus and all his travels.
Okay.
And the theme was this portion of text was mostly about theme as it related to what does the author want us to learn. That's
Okay.
what the theme is. And so that text was very lengthy.
Okay.
The texts that we were covering right before CFA 2 were much shorter.
Okay.
So of course I had a little help with some engagement strategies
Okay.
from various people, and also strategies that would keep the students better controlled.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say, if I go back to listening to what you just said, you basically broke the text down to where it was bite-sized information that students could grasp.
Mm-hmm.
You incorporated some teaching strategies that help you with management of students' behaviors.
Yes.
But you also made sure that you kept the main thing. Whatever the text was calling for, you kept students to that.
Jalen Clark to the main office. Jalen Clark to the main office.
You were able to keep students focused on that, and that was able to help you to move students in the way that you need to move them. Well, I want to commend you on that, because numbers doesn't lie. It's clear that students are progressing in the correct way as it relates to this particular standard, and keeping text in front of students is very clear, and that kind of helps us to segue into your lesson that we saw, or the lessons that I saw this week. I was able to visit your classroom at least 3 times this week, or 2 times this week. The first time I came in, you guys were finishing up a text on Paul Laurence Dunbar, and I really heard some great conversations from your students around the text. It was clear that they had internalized it, they were writing about it, and they were speaking about it, and they were able to really have some good conversations that they were engaged in. I had a chance to see your honors class as well as a regular class of students. In both classes, there were some really rich conversations that you were leading. The feedback that I would give you from what I saw would be around pacing.
Okay.
One of the questions that I would have for you, how much time did you want to spend on the I do part of the lesson?
The I do part of the lesson, probably about 20 minutes.
20 minutes?
20 minutes max.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything that kept you from sticking to that amount of time?
Just a matter of just entering the classroom and managing the behaviors, getting everybody settled down and working on the bell work, making sure that students are engaged by calling on multiple students individually during the bell work. That's
Okay.
why that's one of the strategies to try to get everybody settled and ready for the lesson. So
Okay.
that took a little bit more time.
Okay.
The fact that the lesson plan called for us to read and go back and forth with the I do, we do, that was fine. It's just that there were words within the text that I wanted to make sure the kids understood. So I
Okay.
took extra time to try to do that. So
Okay.
that throws my pacing off a little bit, and I know that, perhaps they don't need to know what every single word means, but I try to do that, so maybe I probably need to cut back on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much time had you planned to have left for independent work at the end of the lesson?
At the end of the lesson, for independent work, probably 20, so well, I was thinking it was 3 things they had to do independently, 7 minutes each, about 21 minutes.
21 minutes.
Yes,
Okay. What do you think kept you from having enough time?
Trying to make sure that the instructions are clear, and again, it's the repetition of what did I just say? What are you gonna do? What did I just say? I have to do it multiple times. So I
Okay.
probably need to cut it back and just let them know it as I've done it in other places. Hey, I'm only gonna say this twice.
Okay.
I'm only gonna say this once.
Okay.
So I received the feedback, and
Okay.
maybe that's what I'll try to do moving forward.
Let me give you a scenario that I think that may help you in terms of practice. So your lessons that you had, I could tell that it was well thought out. I could tell that you knew what the text called for. I could tell that you had already internalized the text. I could tell that simply from the conversations that you were having with the students, that you had read the text, that you were prepared, and that you were able to lead effective conversations on what the author was calling students to know in the text. So let me make this suggestion for you.
Okay.
Practice the lesson with a timer.
Okay.
Rehearse what to do when the timer goes off. And if you're not quite finished with that particular session, rehearse how you could move students up or be able to catch students up with that particular timer. That would be my suggestion as far as rehearsing with pacing.
Okay.
Other than that, I thought that you had both times that I was able to stop by your classroom and visit with you and listen to your instruction. I thought that your lesson was dead on. I thought that your engagement was where I definitely would want it to be. I also thought that your management of students' behaviors was on point. I felt like anytime a student was off task, you were able to quickly get that student back on task. And one of the strategies that I saw you use, students who were off task, you were able to ask them questions about the text that made those students think and get back on task because they were making connections to the text. So I want to commend you for what I saw this week in your classroom. I look forward to coming back and continuing to see the good work that you're doing. I want to commend you on the data that you have with your students. So it shows me that you're moving students in the right direction. I want to continue to support you around this work. And thank you for coming in today to, number one, let me coach you around the things that I saw that you need support in. But also, I want to thank you for allowing me to push your thinking and share with you some of the good things that I know that you're doing and that I see that you're doing inside of your classroom. Thank you, Ms. Kerr.
Thank you, Mr.